What's up, Battle Buddies? We are continuing spooky season at one of the most haunted places in America. We are here in San Francisco on a brisk 65-degree weather day, and it is cloudy and it's foggy and it kind of fits the vibe. We are here for a day tour, but we are still here in Alcatraz Island to check out the history, the creepiness, and just the ultimate vibe that Alcatraz holds here. So we're excited and we're bringing you guys along.
So Alcatraz just happens to be one of the most haunted places in America. So let's get this spooky season going.
This is a model of the island when it was at its most armed, with 108 guns mounted. This was when it was still a military base, before they turned it into the military prison. The Army officers and family members, yeah, because some of the officers would stay here with their families too.
The ones that were prisoners or the ones that worked?
The guards, the ones who worked here, yeah.
Instantly when we walked in, we went through the area where the military barracks are. And there's like this hallway, and it's just creepy.
With just mossy brick, and it just looks like a very eerie vibe. And you see bird feathers everywhere from all the birds that have occupied this island now.
That have died and moved on. No, I don't know.
No, you can definitely tell this holds a lot of history. So they have quite a bit blocked off. A lot of areas are blocked off for safety. So as we exit this hallway, we're just left to admire these little tiny doors, which I'm curious of what those are for, and into this tunnel.
There's a bunch of these doors everywhere, like these little doors. So like, do you think some of the prisoners like that were really bad, were they like held in a small little confined area?
I'm not sure. I would think that was like where the cannons and everything, because this used to be a military base, so it's probably where all the cannons were held, and they just blocked it off with wooden doors.
It's a little hard to tell because there's like no context on some of this stuff.
So now that we made it on the other side of the guard tower, this here was the penitentiary apartment house and the military barracks. So this is basically where like the guards would stay with their families. So those who talk about military housing now, imagine this, being confined to a tiny little island. I guess put it into perspective that way. The walk out here is pretty extensive. The terrain is pretty hilly, so not the easiest to get around. There's a lot of steps, a lot of hills, and like Aaliyah was saying, due to erosion and just how old this area is, it's not very steady and even, so just be careful when you're out here walking as well. So this area is the penitentiary shooting range in the military prison workshop and gymnasium. And a fun fact that I read is the only thing you were guaranteed here at Alcatraz was food, shelter, and clothing. You had to literally earn everything else. You had to earn having visitors come visit you. You had to earn working. Besides like the military, they had to work to build some of the buildings here when this was a military prison. Other than that, if you wanted to go to the library, you had to earn that. The gym, anything. So nothing was handed to you.
As a prisoner.
As a prisoner, yep.
Besides basic needs like food, water, clothing, and what was the other part?
Shelter.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so it has a little bit of a history here that when it was part of the military base, this was the exchange, the barber shop for the families. And then when it became just a prison, this was like a social hall where they had, looks like bowling, and they just got together for dinners. And very interesting, because now this is, it just doesn't look big enough to hold all of that. But this says it burnt down in 1970. this is what's left of it.
The person who made this quote is also an author of A Black Man's Testimony, and it even says right here, black artists were not included in many of the social events. So that's kind of when, like, history still going on about
Segregation, yeah.
This is a really unique debate that I really never thought of, is using prisoners for work. Like, who really gains here? Is it private companies, the prisoners themselves, or the society as a whole? Because you don't have to pay them. So it's free labor, essentially.
This building was one of the industrial buildings where they worked, like one of their workshops. And these would have been the guards' offices, it looks like. Because they have like their desks. You can see on some of these, I guess they're still trying to preserve what it somewhat looked like back then, where they have the office and a desk. And everything else is just stripped in this building, but it has a lot of the history of what was in here, as well as their daily routine. So they had to wake up at 6:30 and eat breakfast and then rest, and then I guess they would go into some of their work. This says right here, this was basically their laundry area where they would do laundry for the military. And this story is actually pretty funny. John Knight Giles, he tried to escape by basically cleaning the military's items, and it took him 10 years to gain all of the items he needed, and he just dressed as a tech sergeant one time and got on the ship, and then they noticed he was missing at inmate count, and the inmates started calling him Sarge because of his escape.
And his reward was 3 extra years in solitary confinement.
Al Capone is probably the most infamous prisoner to be known here at Alcatraz, but I feel once you start doing your history on all the inmates that were here, there are so many interesting stories that even top Al Capone's. I mean, if you start talking about the Angling brothers and a few more, they're all just so interesting. Especially these guys who planned out the big 1962 escape. Yeah, so just as you were saying over there, they did all this work for free. It took them till 1941 to 1945 when they actually started working on getting some sort of pay for the prisoners in their work. Even though it would only be about 5 to 12 cents per hour, but they also earned some time deducted from their sentence. All for just doing the job they were already giving.
Alcatraz closed in 1963. And in 1970, it looks like a group of Native Americans came by to their powwow, a traditional chant, to remember and honor those who were stripped of their identity back in the day in Alcatraz.
So now they also use, Alcatraz is known for many birds coming here, and these are called water birds. And every spring they return to build their nest to raise the next generation, and this is closed. We can't go out here, unfortunately. But if you look out here, you can see some of the birds. They're just out there. So crazy, they have so many stuffed birds that are native here. Well, not native, but they come here to Alcatraz Island.
The power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish. Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes. Men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men, machine men with machine minds and machine hearts. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world, a decent world that will give men a chance to work, that will give youth a future and old age a security. By the promise of these things.
Ew, I guess that was their examination table too, right there. many people know what Alcatraz is, or they've even heard it at some point in their life. But for those who may not know, what is Alcatraz? So Alcatraz actually started off as a military base after the whole Indigenous, where they occupied it as more of a boarding school. The military took over and it became a military base where they even had guns and ammo, everything here on Alcatraz Island. After a while, it ended up becoming more like a military prison. It's where they sent those, similar to what Leavenworth is now. It's one of those where they just sent all of the military as retraining and as punishment. And actually, some of the military prisoners that were here on Alcatraz ended up building a lot of these buildings to what they are now. So in 1933, the military actually ended up closing this down as their military prison, and the Federal Bureau of Prisons declared this a national prison in 1934. And that is when it became the notorious prison for some of the most well-known criminals of history. Located just a little bit over a mile away from the San Francisco Bay, this is not a place, a prison where judges could just sentence criminals to. This was more of a holding station for those being transferred. So the judge couldn't just sentence a criminal, say, I'm sentencing you to life in Alcatraz. That wasn't a thing. But it still held some of the most notorious criminals that we're gonna learn about once we head inside to the cell tower. Ooh. They had a fireplace here going into the warden's office. Oh, the warden had a really open layout for over the water too. So they went through 4 different wardens during the time of Alcatraz's opening.
Oh, yeah. So it seems as if with each warden throughout the years, they were wardens for less and less time. Him being approximately 15 years to the last one only being a warden for 2 years. The job is hard.
And just outside the warden's quarters, this is the control room where they held all the keys and all of the switches where they can control the locks of each room. And it looks here like a little book as well that held everyone's information. The visitation center where the loved ones would come. Yep, this is where visitors would come visit their loved ones. So if Daddy were ever, Daddy hit his head. Oh, he's crying. So this is what you would see if you were coming to visit him. I noticed a lot of people are entering from the other way, which is basically the beginning of the prison, but we're entering as like a guest, kind of, from the visitation center.
Which I think would give you the experience, like coming in as a visitor.
Yep.
We took our inmate friend back.
We're taking him back. So some still have toilets and some still have sinks attached. And that's
this one, that one's smaller.
And then I guess they wouldn't have beds. This was probably just their beginning holding station, I would imagine. Just so you can see here how they would have them set up. And even some of the dummies that they would build to escape. So we were walking down the hallway and we're noticing we can't get up to the second or third floor, unfortunately. But as we're looking up on the second floor, and we're like, this room looks different. It's open, first of all, and the light seems a little brighter than all the other ones. That's Al Capone's old room. So a lot of the inmates, when they were earning money, working, making like 5 to 12 cents an hour, they would use it for purchase of art supplies or music, instruments to kind of pass the time. And they do also have an audio tour where you can rent some of their audio equipment to kind of tell you the history and some more information while walking through here. But we kind of did some of our own research and we're kind of just learning as we go, which actually is really interesting just to see how small these cells are and how old they are now. Certain things such as the library were actually a privilege here at Alcatraz. You were not granted that, you had to earn it. And so this is where the inmates would come for their library and find their books, probably do some research, write some letters. These look to be more like solitary confinement. So I guess if you couldn't play nice with others, you would go in here, kind of like what SHU is. And I'm surprised they have it where you can walk in here. It's so creepy, but it looks to be a slightly bigger than the rooms that they're normally in, but then they shut their gate, and then they actually have a heavy-duty door that closes in on them for extra security.
It feels very sad and depressing in there.
All the other ones are open and you can walk in there except this one.
This one's creepy. Cell 14D. Some say this is the most haunted cell in the prison. Visitors have been reported feeling a strange coldness, and some have said that they've seen a spirit there. And it's the only one that was locked.
Yeah, out of all of them.
Mm-hmm. Interestingly enough, with this being spooky season and stuff, I was just curious what exactly or who exactly haunts this area. And I did just a quick research just to see who it was. Someone by the name of the Butcher, Malkowitz, who was assassinated in the laundry room by one of the prison cellmates. So there's really no context of things here, just like only like little things of facts posted here and there, but nothing about hauntings or anything like that. I feel like you have to have the little audio guide to kind of tell you what's going on. And even then, I'm not sure if it really will tell you anything like that because we don't have it. So interesting, really interesting.
So where we just came out of was D block, that is isolation and all of the major confinements. And then you walk out and this was just the general population, which was CD Street. This is C block, and then A block and B block. So these are the locations where he haunts, or he has been known to haunt. But then you walk out and we just got blown by a gust of wind because all you hear outside, these windows are just like banging from the wind. This here is the recreation yard, and it shows some of the items that they used to have, such as baseball and horseshoes, and it's really windy out here. But you just walk right out here, and it's down these stairs, and it's right out here, right outside where the water is. So when you leave A, B, and C block, you have to go into the chow hall or dining hall where they would go and eat. This is their metal detector that they used to have to walk through to detect if they would bring spoons and stuff. So I'm not sure how those inmates were able to sneak some spoons in. So they actually mounted tear gas containers to the roof here in the dining hall just in case they ever had to use it, in case any riot broke out or anything. And they said they never had to use it, so that's actually pretty interesting.
The food here was the best in the federal prison system. Either they had really good cooks or they were just delusional and they were hungry.
Oh, well, talking about what some of them ate that they thought was the best food, here is the kitchen where they would be served. So you would walk up here and grab your tray, and you can see that's where they had some of their knives and utensils stored, some of their vegetables to prepare, and it looks like soup kettles.
You see the date up there?
Yep.
That's when the prison closed.
That was the last day. I'm pretty sure that the
You think
last
that was
meal
the last?
served here. Yep. They just got breakfast the last day. And it was just assorted dry cereals, steamed wheat, scrambled eggs, milk, fruit, toast, bread, and they said that was the best meals that they would eat. So this shows some of the history when it was a prison. The years it was open from 1934 to 1963. They had 1,576 inmates, 90 correction officers. Think about just 90 for that many of these criminals. And then 14 escape attempts, and then 4 wardens that they went through while here. This is where you would walk in and you would get one of the audio. These are where you can rent one of your audio things to listen to the history here inside the building. And then this was the type of handcuffs used in Alcatraz. And then these are high security handcuffs that are used in today's prisons, and they seem so much heavier and thicker. Oh, even when you leave, they have a little museum store. You can get a baseball if you like baseball with Alcatraz on it. Or if you really want to remember this place, a little inmate cup. They even have, if you want to remember, you can get a part of Alcatraz when they're doing some preservation, some of the rocks from the island. Out of everything you could purchase here at the museum store, I think this is probably what surprised me the most. They have a whole comic book series on Alcatraz and like the escape
There's about
of
12.
them. This is insane to me.
So $45 for the whole set. Yes.
Escape from Alcatraz, presumed dead. Like, I don't know if this is most likely stories based on what really happened here or just made up stories, but either way. You can get comic books or these cool posters, which we're actually really looking at this one. It's so nice.
As we were checking out of the merchandise, there was an official coin worth 50 cents that you could spend at the PX here in Alcatraz. Now, this is making me feel really old because for us, we had these little pog-looking things
Yep, the 90s.
that you can exchange at the PX, and it was actual currency. There would be coins that you would get, the pog, little pog things worth 50 cents, $5, $1, and you could get those if you're overseas in Germany or Afghanistan or wherever. And it was worth money. It was currency at the PX.
Yeah, the ones in there said 50 cents. But we got some seeds, some flower seeds of wildflowers of Alcatraz. And what better way to kind of commemorate this by having some of the flower seeds from the wildflowers here on Alcatraz in your own garden at home. Out of all those stories I read about the prisoners here at Alcatraz, his probably was the most muted. I mean, he had his way with a lot of the guards. He always was able to get them to start working for him. So he kind of always had a luxury in the prison, I guess you would say. And even his cell here, he had a window view, one of the only cells with a window view, if that says anything. There were some of the other prisoners that really stood out to me. So they had some such as George Machine Gun Kelly, Robert Stroud, which is Birdman of Alcatraz. And it was known that he was well known for caring for birds and just kind of, that's all he took his time on, were birds. And maybe that's why I kept thinking something weird when I saw bird feathers here. And so he spent most of his time with the birds, no matter where he was. And then Bumpy Johnson, which we read a little bit about him. He was the Harlem mobster that was sent here to Alcatraz. And he actually, when he was released from Alcatraz, he was celebrated in Harlem with a parade to welcome him back home. So he was a very well-known person in his hometown of Harlem.
Aside from mobsters that you just mentioned, the director, J. Edgar Hoover, wanted Alcatraz to be a symbol of America's intolerance and prosecution of what he thought to be undesirable lifestyles that can range from the indigenous people that we've seen, deserters of the U.S. military during war, and just breaking prison rules if you're already in prison and making your way here.
You want to escape the prison you're at? We're going to send you to one you can't escape. I think the inmates that stand out to me the most are the Anglin brothers. I believe they're the ones that attempted to escape, and they made it out to the waters. They even made a raft, and they were never found. They don't know if they drowned. They don't know if they made it to land, or if they were potentially eaten by sharks, or just died of hypothermia in these frigid waters because their bodies were never found. Still a mystery to this day.
Tickets are $53.25 for adults, $50.65 for seniors, and $35.55 for children 5 and 11. There's no time limit to stay during the day. So you can come in first thing in the morning and stay 2-3 hours, or come into a closing and stay till the 6 o'clock tour. The nighttime tour is a little more expensive, with $64.30 for adults, seniors is $60.25, and children $41. The entire tour takes roughly 2.5 hours, but if you're like us, we take a lot of B-roll and we like to dissect as much as we can. 3 hours, we're here for 3 hours, so I don't think it'll take you any longer than that to be here. I mean, there's not really much interaction, it's a lot of reading and a little bit of walking and going up hills and stuff. So there is street parking around the area in San Francisco, which I do not recommend. It's really hard to get into anyway.
And it's based on meters too, so you're limited.
So if you go to parkopedia.com, they'll show various different parking spots. You can even reserve some of them if you want. Prices range from $20 to $48 for the reserved parking. And some of them are 4 hours max, some of them are all day. You just have to look on Parkopedia to see what the time limit is for each one. What we did, and hopefully this helps you if you decide to come, we parked at Pier 33 in the little parking garages there, and it was just like a 5-minute walk from the garage over to the actual pier, where about every 25 to 30 minutes the boat keeps coming back. So let's say you want to leave earlier, just wait 25 to 35 minutes and you can leave. It's a self-guided tour too, so that's something we didn't know.
Yeah, which I do think if you want the full experience to get the audio equipment. We didn't, but it was fun. We were reading everything and took our time with that, so that was fun. I would love to come back and do the night tour, but as cold as it is now,
Oh, it's gonna be really cold.
I don't know if I could handle.
Forgot to mention, when you're getting on the actual boat, there's no drinks allowed or food, but you can bring bottled water. But on the boat, they do have a small concession stand where you can buy coffee, hot chocolate, or snacks like pretzels. And they have a restroom on board too. So if you feel like you're running late, you can just hold it in just a little bit and hit the bathroom as you get on the boat.
And alcoholic beverages are available for purchase, but only from the island back to land. You can purchase alcohol beverages, not going to the island. All right, guys, so that was another video for spooky season. We want to thank you so much for watching and sticking with us, and we hope you enjoyed this little tour as much as we did.
Yeah, so a lot of fun. a little spooky, but a lot more historical than spooky, I feel. It might get spooky at night, but I don't want to stay here that late. It's too cold.
But the lights are flickering too,
Yeah.
so I wonder if that counts. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching, and be sure to like this video if you like this content, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and follow the rest of our journeys coming up.
Leave a comment and let us know some things that we may have missed, or something spooky that we have missed that we didn't cover. So thank you guys for following along, and
We'll see you next time.
all right, bye.